Stacie, why don't you just make different colors of the sky with different facial expressions? So first I went from one sheep I could sell for $20, but then I made a gray one that was like content and happy, and then a brown one who was sleepy. I had a trio then from the same design that I leveraged that I could sell for $60. But then I'm like, what else can I do with this sucker? So then I made embroidery kits and I taught people how to embroider my sheet, right? And then I put it on fabric that I licensed. So like this isn't that, but this is a chicken. So then I put it on fabric. So then I licensed it with fabric design, and then licensed it with a baby decor company who put it on baby bedding, and then I put it on tea towels. And pretty much I've made over $250,000 from one design.
We'll get started with today's episode in just a minute, but first I wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who has been watching, engaging, and subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done that, make sure you do that before today's episode. It does help us grow and helps us continue to get amazing guests like today's. And also, if you haven't yet, go to getyouLaunched.com. We're always posting new and cool goodies up there for you, free and upcoming really cool stuff that you might just want to know about. So keep checking in with getyouLaunched.com. And without further ado, here is today's Dare to Launch. Hello, Launch family. This is Dare to Launch. My name is Chris. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Walker.
Hey, everybody.
And Mr. Dan Walker.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest. She is the founder of Gingerbread, a seven-figure fake company selling mostly art in the form of tea towels and other things. Her program, Leverage Your Art, helps artists create an art business they love. She has a podcast called Art Plus Audience that she interviews highly successful art entrepreneurs. And we're super stoked to talk to you. Stacie Bloomfield, welcome to Dare to Launch.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are excited to have you on and really dig into your business and your story specifically. I did a little research and I heard you used to run a coffee shop. You used to be a coffee shop manager and then somehow became a seven-figure art entrepreneur. Could you tell us a little bit about that story and how you started?
Oh, absolutely. So I always have been drawing. It's my earliest memory is taking my dad's pen and drawing puppy dogs. And it was actually the only way he could keep me still. Like when we would have to go places is he'd draw something and I'd copy it. And I always knew I wanted to be an artist, but there's like no successful path that you could see like when I was growing up for what it means to be an artist, aside from like working in the mall, having a kiosk, drawing portraits, which people suggested. And I was like, no. And then, people are like, are you going to be an art teacher in elementary school? And I'm like, no, I love children, not that much. Honestly, I love my own, but that wasn't my dream. And honestly, I got a job working at Starbucks when I was 17 years old. And I went to college and just stayed at Starbucks. And I married this fella named Nathan. I've known him since I was 11 and he was 12. And we dated and got married while we were still in college. And, I was done with the job. And on our tax return, I found it, and he was listed as house husband, even though we were just, two kids trying to get through college. Well, he graduated, and then I graduated, and we became pregnant with our first baby pretty quickly. And I was like, I need like insurance. And my husband still needed to get a PhD in mathematics. So I just became Starbucks Stacie, a lifer. I moved up from barista to shift supervisor to assistant manager. And then I was managing a store when my baby was born, Violet, who's now 16. And after she was born, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot stay working here because, recession had just happened and stores were closing everywhere. And I just had to work nonstop. I never saw my baby that first year. So I was like, smelling like coffee, never seeing my baby, but I had health insurance, dagnabbit, and I was like, maybe someday I'll draw again. I don't know.
Stacie, this is a part of the story I don't know. I know much of the story, but how was the shift?
How did the shift happen?
Yeah. Starbucks Stacie to
whatever the heck I am now. So here's the truth. I had this one day where I came home from my shift at Starbucks and I just broke down crying to my husband. I was like, I I'm so tired. I haven't even decorated my daughter's nursery. At this point, she was already like 6 months old, and she just had a crib in her room. And I felt like I was like already a failure of a mother to this new baby. And he was like, Stacie, you used to draw all the time. You have this art degree. Why don't you just sit down and draw something and we can put it in her room? And we had like no extra money. We found some manila envelopes and a Sharpie. And he's like, just start drawing. And I just sat and drew, and I just drew and drew, and I drew this little, let's see, it was like a seahorse I drew, and then I drew this little elephant, and it was just black and white with Sharpie. And my husband's like, these are really cute. Have you heard of Etsy? Etsy is this new place for independent artists. And I'm like, at this point, like, I'm not even an artist. I'm just like a wannabe doodler who, has a day job working at Starbucks. And it took me a while to build up the courage to open an Etsy store. And the truth is, my company named Gingerbur is because when I was in college, I had to create a final project and I had to create a magazine all about me, Stacie Bloomfield, and I called it Gingerbur. And I did what I now do all the time, which is I leverage that. And I just grabbed that branding. No one had an Etsy store named Gingerbur. Shocker, because no one knows how to pronounce it or spell it. And I opened my first little store. And I made no sales for a very, very long time. So while I was working at Starbucks, I'd come home, put my baby to bed, and I'd have like 5 hours maybe in a week to work on my Etsy shop. So I was hand making anything I could, aprons that no one bought, handmade pillows that in hindsight were kind of ugly. And then my husband's like, what about the drawings you put in Violet's room? What if you tried to sell those? And I tried it. And all of a sudden, I started getting these things called hearts on Etsy. That means someone likes what you're doing. And I'm like, I have no idea how to market. My Facebook memories pop up now, and they're like, I have an Etsy store, gingerbur.etsy.com. Click here to look. Like, that's all it was to my friends and family. And then a relative bought one of my first pieces of art there. And of course, I'm like, this is a pity buy. This is ridiculous, ew. But then people who weren't, like my sister in law, started buying prints of the art I was making. I found ways to replicate them. The original drawing I keep for myself, and then I'd scan it, and then I'd sell like a lower cost print. And eventually, I sold enough prints that I could afford a printer of my own. I was outsourcing the printing. I spent $600 on a printer, which my husband found a savings bond his grandfather had given him as a kid. And we cashed that in because we had no extra money, and we bought this archival printer. And when it arrived at my doorstep, I started crying again. I'm a crier. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to have to sell so many prints to pay for this printer. And my husband, who's just really calm and encouraging, obviously, he was like, no, let's keep the printer. Let's see what happens. And I added it up, and that first printer, over the course of 10 years, I made over $500,000 from that one printer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I mean, what a great investment.
The best investment. I mean, $600 felt like everything at the time. But sometimes you don't realize that like you're one decision away from the thing that's going to actually solve your problem, which for me was like, how do I afford to print things and sell them and have a better profit margin? Got to do it myself.
Wow. I am hearing so many parallels to your story a bit, Jeff, as well. Like even just the place of sort of desperation and a place of needing something in life to change, and then needing to spend some of your last money on something to invest in yourself, right? Like people, what was it like to actually have to be like, I'm going to invest this big amount of money at this crucial moment and trust that it's going to work out?
I felt like the stupidest person in the entire world, to be honest with you. Like, I thought I'm either like delusionally like optimistic that this will work out, or in hindsight, I'm going to realize that I like had no idea what I was doing. And sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, and in hindsight, I see it. But in this case, I think I had just enough like delusional hope that maybe it could work for me. And the truth is, I'm not the best artist in the world, guys. It's not like I'm out there like creating like beautiful, fine works of art. Like, I draw animals a lot of the time. Like this is a bluebird, like it's very graphics looking, more children's style. I'm not like changing the world with my art. And at the time I was a little bit rough around the edges, but I'm a I'm very motivated to solve problems and figure out a way forward and just take it piece by piece. But the truth is, my family was very afraid, my extended family, because like I married into this family of academics, and my husband was supposed to get a PhD in mathematics. He got it. He got that PhD, dag nabbit. I made sure he did. And the thing they were like is like, Stacie, if he ever stops going to school because you guys got married and doesn't finish that PhD, yeah, it's you. You're the reason why. And I'm like, okay, okay, so I'm going to make sure not only he doesn't fail and he gets that PhD, and now we have this baby, and I'm going to raise it and make sure we have insurance, but I'm also going to start my own business. Very smart, on the outside. It looked great, but in truth, it taught me so much about like what's possible when you like set your sight on a goal and you're just tenaciously working towards figuring out just the next step forward. What's the next way I can create income from this printer? I went from doing art prints to being like, I think I could print calendars on this. So I printed large pieces of paper of calendars. I bought this horrible death trap of a paper cutter that no one should have ever used for like at Goodwill. And I was cutting out each sheet of these calendars, and then I started selling them. Started figuring out how can I make more money from the art I've already created. So I took an animal from a calendar and I printed it on fabric with spoon flower, which was new at the time. It's where you can print your own fabric. And I was hand cutting and sewing these little cute pillows by the dozens, until at one point, like my entire Christmas break was spent sewing pillows to the point that I broke my grandmother's sewing machine. But you just find the next thing. And that's what I did with what I had. Use what you have. You don't have to overinvest to do that, and get scrappy.
So much of your story does resonate, Chris. Thanks for that. Because I remember when I made that first investment, I felt stupid and I felt sort of like a loser. It's like, why do I have to? Other people seem to have figured it out without having to go make this investment in myself. And I was embarrassed, actually. I was embarrassed to tell anyone. You said you printed $500,000 with that printer.
Yeah.
You didn't actually print the money, but you printed the things that gave you the money.
I mean,
Yeah.
every art print, every art print I sold for $20. It cost me $2.15 to produce.
When people hear this full story, they'll be like, wow, because 500,000 was just the start of things for you. And you said, I'm not changing the world, but actually you are. You are changing the world because of how you have helped so many people bring their art into the world and make a living from their art. As you said, when you grew up, there just was no model for artists to make money in the world. There was no successful path that you saw to being an artist that was not a starving artist, but now you've trailblazed that path and you've shared that path with so many others. Could you just talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Well, I guess I'll start by saying if you're an artist, there's like one of two messages. We talked about the starving artist, but then there's within the art community bit of snobbery that if you are a real artist and you actually want to monetize, that you're a sellout. And I remember I'd had a little success on Etsy, and I had taken like one of my first calls with someone who was like wanting my advice because like it looked like I knew what I was doing. I'm like, cool, this is great. And it was someone I'd known when we were younger, and she's like, don't you feel like a little bit of like a cheap and sellout, like making this kind of art that you're making? And I was like, not really. I just paid my mortgage this month and I'm going to do it again. Because in college I was making fine art. I was doing like really, really like intense like portraiture and color theory and all these things with like non-digital mediums, and then to go from that to like drawing bluebirds and foxes and mushrooms, some people didn't get it, but I think I understood pretty quickly that there is an intersection between decorative arts and the products people are buying every single day. So, for me at first, I'm like, I'm going to sell art prints because people might put them in their nurseries. And then I started thinking about what are some other functional products that we could create. Like I mentioned, calendars and planners and things people could use that feature my art. And once I kind of figured this out, I started teaching it to other people, which essentially is like, okay, so I take this drawing of this mushroom, right? And I put it on a mug. I sell it myself, produce it through like a third party. Then I license this design, which is a whole other thing that I discovered, which is other companies like my art, I found out. And they were like, hey, Stacie, can we pay you a percentage of our sales to put products put your art on our products. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So my first licensing check was like for 20 cents. And I was like, this is the best 20 cents I've ever made in my life because I had reused something I'd already created. So I started realizing you don't have to make tons and tons of art. You can make a small body of intentional work that is like reflective of your voice and your style. And then you figure out the best and fastest way to create income from it. And that's what's really cool. And what I've taught my artists to do is like, it's not about emulating my path, because my path is very much reflective of my skills as an artist, the time I have available, and, my interests and how people respond to my art. But you don't have to just make originals to make money as an artist. You can do prints, you can do print on demand, you can do limited edition runs of products, licensing, teaching, which is now what we're talking about. In 2020, whenever COVID happened, I had built my business up from like, Starbucks Stacie working at my dining room table to having this studio. And I had a small team of about 4 people. They helped me ship orders and assemble things and take my shoebox full of receipts and actually make it a business, because that's not my strong suit. And we had like our best year ever. It looked like we were set up for it. January 2020, we went to a trade show to sell my products in stores. It's wholesaling. Went to New York Now, Javits Center, invested like $20,000, which is a ton of money. And we wrote orders to all these retailers. And we're like, oh my gosh, we did it. We've made it. We came home, immediately spent money that we hadn't received yet, bought all this inventory. And then we know what happened in 2020. All of a sudden, one day, I got all these emails. I need to cancel this purchase order. I need to cancel this. We're not going to do this delivery date. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are sitting on all this inventory with no way to sell it, and doors are shutting left and right. And this is when I really started leveraging my art, my friends, like in real life. First thing I did is I took all this inventory and I was like, how can I sell it right now? I had all these greeting cards. So I, in a day, created a pen pal program for my social media following. I was like, you're going to be disconnected from people anyways. Why don't you pay me $20? I'll send you cards and envelopes and match you with someone else on my list, and you can have a pen pal. And we had so many people sign up because people were afraid and craving connection. The next thing I did was I was teaching workshops here on how to hand embroider. And so I gathered every bit of fabric and thread I could find and bought every hoop on Amazon I could find, embroidery hoop, and we started hand packaging embroidery kits. And I just one day on Instagram was like, who's bored at home? Who wants to learn how to stitch a gingerbread piece of art onto embroidery fabric? And we started selling those hand over fist. So much so that all my team was doing was measuring out yarn and thread and cutting it and packaging it and getting it out there. And I was like, it was at that point, I was telling my other friends and creative businesses, I was like, you just got to pivot your butts off, guys. Like, I'm very eloquent. Pivot in any way you can. And that's what led me to finally, after I'd gone through all the inventory I could at the store, I was like, what else do I have that I can leverage, that I can use? And I was like, I'm going to teach people to do exactly what I just did and what I've done since I started my Etsy store, which is to start with something small, use what you have, and squeeze every little bit of opportunity out of it to create the business that is like perfectly reflective of who you are as a creative and your strengths. So 2020, I don't know how to make sales pages, Jeff, and it was so ugly. I would love to show you sometimes. And my sales emails were ugly, and I was trying to be colorful because I'm an artist, but in hindsight, like, I didn't know how to write copy. I just knew how to talk about what I cared about. So I said I was going to sell a course for $9.97, called it Leverage Your Art, explained it, opened up cart, and I sold 500 spots. 500 spots. And I spent like $10,000 on that course in marketing expenses. I figured out how to do ads myself with a YouTube tutorial. Golden days of ad spend. Am I right? Those were nice days. But I went from having never taught a course to all of a sudden having an 8-week course that didn't exist yet. I should remind you, I created it as I went. I pre-sold something based off of the premise that I could actually deliver. And I made $500,000 in a week. And it didn't feel real. And then I had to deliver. Which is what I do now. I took that as an opportunity, and I've now grown like my product side business, like multi-million-dollar business now. I sell like tea towels hand over fist with art on them. It's great. But education has grown into like a $3 to $4 million a year program. where I teach this and I have a membership now. And now I've dabbled in teaching people how to make art my way. And so it kind of has just been this wild 16 years of going from nothing to just pivoting to the next opportunity. So that's what happened.
I love the word opportunity. Like as I was listening there, that came up a bunch. And it's so fun because I didn't know your story personally in that much detail. And the thing that I just kept thinking, like, as you're talking through that, is the I love the lack of a grand plan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that like so sincerely, because I feel like that's something that holds so many people back. Is it's like it's like the need to know the end goal and the starting steps and every step in between. And it really seems like you just sort of like opportunity. Let's go for it. And if it's not working out, like you said with the pillows, if it's not working out, well, like that doesn't matter. Still going to keep trying it, but also there's another opportunity. We'll try that, and then we'll try this, and we'll try that, and I I just love how you've grown a business that, looking back, it almost does seem like if you could have planned out a master plan, it almost seems like this could have been a master plan.
I
But
know,
it was
right? That's what
created
people
one step
take
at
my
a time.
course. That's what people take my course now. They're like, share the plan, Stacie. How did you do this? I think what's funny, Dan, to your point, is like people think I'm type A, but they've never met my sister. She's like ultra type A. She works with me now. So I brought her onto my team to help run like the back end of things a long time ago. And the joke always was that like we had these massive 5-year plans when we were younger. Like we were these very organized sisters who were, you can imagine straight A students in charge of all the clubs, that person. And I always had this plan. And I think what happened is honestly is when I got married as young as I did and I got pregnant right after graduating, like I graduated in December and was pregnant by February, all of a sudden I'm like, the plan is out the window, friends. There is no like straight line here. It is literally just like make the best decision I can today. Make the best decision I can today. And actually, part of the course is funny because I have a curriculum, right? And leverage your art because people want the path. But what I actually try to do by the end of Leverage Your Art program is actually try to get people to almost throw out the plan and get good at decision making. My goal is to teach people how to make decisions through a lens that is perfect for their skill set and their time. So, if anything, we're a compass and a lens at Leverage Your Art, and we're showing people the possibilities of how to create profitable income as a creative.
I love that. And I love that because it's like I can see you in the background, like someone wants to plan, and you're like, no, that's not the right thing to do. But like, okay, we'll help you create that, but actually, like, do it this way instead.
Yeah. It's hard because what I focus on in Leverage, first of all, is we talk about the business part, like setting up the actual business, the things I was horrible at too, why I hired my sister, what to do with your expenses, spreadsheets, how to do it all scrappy. Like I'm not teaching people how to use one program. I really think that for all entrepreneurs starting out, like you got to keep your overhead low, especially because there will be a time when your investment matters, right? For me, it was the printer. And then later it was like joining a mastermind. You want to put the money in the right places that'll actually like turn the volume up, right? So we start with the most basic way to get your business set up. And then we teach about how to talk about yourself as a creative, because if you had met me back then, Jeff, you would not have been impressed. I'm like, I'm a doodler. Don't look at me. Like I don't feel good about anything I'm creating. That's the vibe that most creatives have. Like that's how they believe about themselves. So we try to help people change their beliefs about themselves and talk about their art differently. Then we teach them about audience building, which is very hard because a lot of artists want the art to do the selling for them and they'd like to not speak. But we live in a personal artist brand world where your voice matters more than anything, even more than like you create, because the truth is there are more talented artists out there. People are investing in you as the artist and the creative, and they want to support you, right? And so we're really missing a marketing opportunity as creatives that a lot of businesses don't have, which is like kind of like I'm bearing my soul to you through my creativity and art. Please don't hate me. Also support me and buy my stuff. It's all of it. So after we teach those parts, then we go into different income streams. The ones that require the least amount of investment, art licensing, longer road to build up the consistent income. Then we teach about products and sales, which I'm in my studio right now where all my products are, and we're shipping out a lot every day. And then this year we started teaching about courses, workshops, like how do you teach a local workshop as a creative? So, in essence, I can take this mushroom, I can sell the original of it, which I have, I can sell it on products at a lower cost. I can then teach someone how to draw the mushrooms in person at a workshop at my local library. And if I'm real savvy, I can record myself while I'm doing it and sell it online as a workshop too. So it's like we leverage the heck out of this mushroom. That's what we did.
Could you talk a little bit about the audience part of that for a second? Because I think when I've talked to other artists who have thought about starting an artistic or creative business, a lot of times that's where they get hung up, is the audience part of it. Because one, they've got all the self-doubts of being an artist to begin with. Am I even good enough to have an audience? And then on top of that, maybe their art is just in the wrong place. Like if they're doing nerd specific art, and they're not in a nerd specific area, they're not even meeting the right audience. Or maybe they're doing something that's kind of more of a dark and gothic art. Where does that, maybe their art is great, but it's not in front of the right people. How do you bridge that gap for people who are artists and wanting to get their art where it will be appreciated, or finding out where are the people that appreciate this kind of art?
You know, when I realized that building an audience was really hard for other artists, I got to tell you, I didn't struggle to build my audience because I didn't realize what I was doing. So I had to kind of reverse engineer my own journey. So if I go back in time, I told friends and family about what I was doing, whether they liked it or not, whether they were judgmental or not. And then I started I accidentally became a hometown hero, is what I teach my students first. So we always start locally when we are thinking about building this audience. It's the best way to kind of get your feet wet in a smaller environment without the fear of social media. So if a local church that I didn't even attend had a craft bazaar and I could get a table there for $50, I'm like, heck yes, let's go do this thing. I can't tell you how many times I forgot to price my products and didn't have business cards, but I was just like, what can I do? I have a weekend free. Someone can watch the kids. I can take a few hours out to do this. Now, it terrified me. Being in person in front of people means you're going to hear the criticisms, but it's also the best way to learn what people are responding to. And we start hometown and get in front of as many places as possible. I started doing pop-ups at local retail stores. Then a local retailer actually said, we really love this art that you created. Can we put it on shirts that we sell ourselves? We're like a college town. And so I started developing local partnerships, not intentionally, just through relationship building, which is at the core of everything you do as a creative. It's a relationship. So relationships were built. People were like, you're reliable. They like your art. Let's put it on a shirt and sell it, and I'll pay you $10 for every shirt we sell. I remember I picked up my first check from that retailer, and it was enough to pay for my mortgage for 2 months. And I did not expect that at all. But the truth is, I made a lot of mistakes locally with an audience that was smaller, getting my feet wet, so that then I knew what could go online and sell where it wasn't about being with me in person. So we teach the hometown hero method first and foremost, and that's where you can gather reviews, give feedback. We teach people how to actually survey really low stakes surveys from people in person to inform their next decision. And then it's like, you got to go online. Where do you go online? Where are your people at? Well, if you do the hometown hero method, you figure out who your people are first. So you can like ideal customer them a little bit and then show up where they're at. So for me, I was a nursery artist at the time. I was pitching my work to nursery magazines. Photos of my daughter's nursery, the second one who actually got a decorated nursery, guy. She actually got one because I was a full-time artist at that point. It's real cute. I'd feature my own products. In these photos, I take myself and I submit them to magazines and blogs. And I teach this too. It's pitching and outreach. People are afraid to do that too, but it's another way to do it if you're afraid of social media being your sole source, right? Once you have a couple of products that are selling, you only need a few solid products to be able to then scale and go bigger. You don't even have to sell on a website yet if you don't want to. You can go wholesale, which again isn't about your personality. It's about, at that point, products that you can prove sell and getting them into retailers. And you start as a hometown hero with local stores, get feedback from them. I teach how to wholesale. And then the scariest of all is obviously the social media, but you don't have to only do that. In fact, I'd say exhaust other options first before you go invest in a big built website on Shopify and, try to build this elaborate social media plan. You don't know who you are yet as an artist. The alternative is to also do what I did, is just show up exactly if you go back in time, you can scroll back to where I was using some really rad filters on Instagram. I just showed up as myself. I was really honest. Like, I'm building this business. I don't know what to do. My dogs are barking. My dog is sick. My dog threw up on my pillows. I can't, things like that. And I guess I'm a little bit less afraid to be myself online. And that just takes time. So that's my flavor. So you just got to find the way to show up as the best, most authentic version of yourself. But the path to do that doesn't have to mean I've made a product, now I need to go on Instagram and sell it, or TikTok shop. That's an option, but it's not the only option, right?
So personal artist brand world. You said that's the world we're in, the personal artist brand world. And this idea, because like we have a lot of artists who want to launch. And some of them like love the idea of doing a course, but some of them might just want to launch my art, which I totally get that. Totally get that. And a lot of them are like, how can I do a launch? I just have this piece of art. And I think that idea of the personal artist brand world and bringing them into because there are always going to be artists that are better than you. And these days there's AI, which is better than a lot of people, right?
Those stinker robots. Yeah.
So can you just talk a little bit about that, about like how you differentiate yourself and specifically your art?
If I were to go back in time, I probably would have started my business a little differently. Because if we're looking at today, what it means to be a personal art brand means that people are kind of showing up as influencers in a way online. A lot of people, they want the creative lifestyle. They want to be able to create art, right? And they want to maybe even share about it and document it. Maybe they have a little home studio. For some people, that's the fun part, but no one wants to sell, right? To your point, it's really hard to launch, especially if you don't have a framework. So what I did, Jeff, is I read your book. I read your book a lot, Jeff. And then I reverse engineered what I've done over the years. And so I've kind of been teaching a model of how you can get your art onto products and actually make money from it more quickly. And I think the runway is a little bit shorter whenever you're a personal artist brand. So if you've been doing what I recommend, you're meeting your people, whether it's on social media, in person, you're meeting your ideal customer, right? Then you literally ask them, what the heck do you want? And there's a way to survey it, and I teach it, because a lot of artists just want to make what they want to make. It's valid. I get it. But if you want to create income, there's a few things that you can twist a little bit so that you can still make what you want, but occasionally make maybe something that's easier to sell, right? Than just a work of art, like something functional, like a mug or, tea towels. You survey them, then you create the product. Maybe you create it, maybe you mock it up. Then you bring it to your audience again. Hey, I listened to you. I'm thinking of creating this thing in a limited run. Who would be interested in this? And you literally are creating hype before anything's even been invested and created. And this works whether you have an audience of 25 people or you have an audience of 100,000 people. Because to be a personal art brand means that you're not you're not Amazon, right? You are a person. And you're not even Etsy. When you shop on Etsy, do you remember the name of the shop you bought from? I don't anymore. I started on Etsy, but I couldn't tell you the place I ordered from yesterday because I think Etsy. We need people to remember you, Stacie Bloomfield, or Jeff Walker, or Dan Walker, or Chris Saunders. Who that's your name, yeah, Chris, yeah. Anyway, you need people to connect with you. So we are doing this whole audience connection thing where people know that you care about them. You're taking their input into account. You're creating what they say they want. And then before you invest money, you're hyping it up to where then you can release a pre-order. of products. All right. I'm going to be able to produce 20 of these. So the first 20 people who place an order, it's a bonus, an incentive. You come up with it, something that doesn't cost you extra money. Maybe it's a video you've recorded of how to use it, a PDF guide, but you create the hype, you open your cart. Whenever you sell out your limited edition, you put a wait list up, and then you're like, all right, I sold those. Now we're going to, produce more. And this is the exact method that I used when I launched one of my most successful product lines, which is my Tea Towel Club subscription, which has almost 3,000 monthly subscribers of people who get a tea towel in the month from me every month. Physical product, which is profitable.
I just don't. How much tea are they drinking to need a new tea towel every month?
It's not about the tea. It's about the connection. It's about thinking, okay, my ideal customer, you teach this too, Jeff, and I teach my artists, like the whole goal is to speak to one person with whatever you're selling, whether it's your art on product, a course. So we teach our students how to name their ideal customer, but also create a day in the life. So my gal, her name is Charlotte Bloom. Charlotte Bloom loves gingerbread tea towels. She is about 48 years old. She likes to wear clogs. She has a little like mini garden on her windowsill of her, herbs. She has her little gift drawer, because she's always forgetting to go shopping. And what does she need? What's the perfect gift? It's a tea towel, man. So we're teaching people the art of gifting through our products. And so when we're speaking to Charlotte and Charlotte alone, we know exactly what art to put on our product, right? We know what to design. You asked earlier, where do you fit if you're creating like alternative different types of art, right? There's an audience for you. There's a Charlotte Bloom, but maybe there's like I don't know, what's the opposite of a Charlotte Bloom? Like I don't know, Cherry Danger. I don't know, but there's someone out there who is interested in what you create. It's about figuring out what their life is like and where your art, your designs, or the products you create could fit into their daily life. And if you make it an integral part of their life and you consider them and make them remember your name, that's how you build an audience of 100 loyal customers. And that's enough to have steady income as a creative.
Well, I love too that you're teaching your people how to speak to the transformation. Yeah. Like, it's not just that Charlotte has a tea towel and that Charlotte, you're not putting up a tea towel and just saying, hey, here's a tea towel, go get it.
Exactly.
This is Charlotte, and Charlotte's doesn't just have a stock of gifts now, but she gives a gift and people are like, oh my gosh, I love this. And she says, yeah, let me tell you about Stacie. Let me tell you about the artist that I bought this from. Yes. And I love all of her stuff. And I have this hanging in here. Or she has guests come over to her house and they say, oh my gosh, I love that towel that you have hanging there off your oven. And like, thank you so much. Let me tell you the story behind it. It brings that personality in.
Dan, I gotta tell you, what is so wonderful is when you realize that your most loyal product-based customers or art-based customers can become like your hype squad. And if you do it right, like you can reward them to do that. Like we have a little rewards program for our customers. It's automated through Shopify, but there's things that you can do to go above and beyond just to make them feel like special. Like one year, we pulled up a list of who our top spenders were that year, and I hand wrote them letters, especially if you're smaller scale, this will work for you. A video would work too. And I sent them like a handwritten letter where I was like, you are one of my top customers. I want to personally thank you. And because of this, you get to early bird shop and get this discount code for us at the holidays, because it's twofold. One, we want our customers to come back. Woo! Yeah. But two, we want to make sure that, we make X amount of dollars whenever we launch our product line. So it's not manipulative as much as it's showing appreciation and hoping, fingers crossed, if they've bought from us before, they will be our best customers again during the holidays. And it's all about the relationship that you're building. If you just think showing up and showing your art is enough, you might get lucky. You might have a post go viral. I've had that happen and, sell a couple of things. But if you want a sustainable business, we want to build those relationships. Let me just say this real quick. I recorded my audiobook last week, and the person who runs the recording studio, it's attached to his house. I walked through his kitchen. One of my illustrations was on his kitchen wall. What? Apparently he and his wife were one of my earliest customers. And they bought this cow illustration that I used to sell. And they said it's never going anywhere because they accidentally put it up with like permanent adhesive. So they're never going to forget me. But the point is, like, they were early customers who I built a relationship with. They walked into my studio in downtown Springdale, Arkansas. I remember when they bought it. I remember talking to them. And here we are a decade later working together on this different project. And it's the hometown hero relationship that now means I get to collaborate with him on this other thing. So relationship building, it never doesn't pay off, right?
Stacie, you mentioned your book. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I know it's not out yet as we record this, but tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So whenever I'm a member of Jeff's mastermind, his plus mastermind, I don't know if it's okay to mention that, but when I first joined his mastermind, I had already made like a list of goals. This was like 2 years ago. I had two goals. One was to write the art business book. I didn't know what it would be yet. I bought the domain, the art business book, just in case that would be the name, and I had to like self-publish it. I'm like, why not? And another dream was to invest in my local downtown. Well, because of the relationships that I built in Jeff's mastermind, I just mentioned off the cuff, oh yeah, I want to write a book. And someone said, you should really meet so-and-so. Let me give you their email address. Jeff, you'll love this. I think I might have told you, but I quickly created a pitch. I didn't actually have a pitch idea yet. So I sat down one weekend and I had a call scheduled with someone at Hay House Publishing, which was really cool. And I just threw together the quickest pitch I could. And we got on this call and we're talking. Turns out she was a subscriber to my Tea Towel Club. And so she had already known who I was. And so whenever my email came through that someone had like just referred me to, she already knew who I was, but she had no idea what book I'd want to write. It's going to be about tea towels. I don't know. So she sat down with me and she's like, I don't think the book proposal that you submitted is the book you need to write. And I'm like, I don't either. I just wanted to get in front of you and have a chance to talk to you. Here's actually the book I want to write. And it's about the artist side hustle. So the dream for so many people is the idea that you are only a real artist if you are a full-time artist. Like, what is legitimacy? What is that baseline for me? The truth is, I was working a day job for 3 years before I left it to focus on my art full time. I was using the margins of life, busy mother working full time, baby at home, husband in grad school. And I was like, if I only have 5 hours a week, what can I use during this time to move the right needle forward? So I have been running this program called the Artist Side Hustle Online that like over 140,000 artists have taken online for free, which has been really cool, where I've been teaching this process. And people kept telling me, like, first, it gave them permission to be like, there's no shame in being a part-time artist. In fact, most artists are part-time artists. There's a lot of security in having a full-time job and pursuing art on the side, not giving it the pressure to have to put out income until it's grown enough to where, it's an easier leap, right? So I told them that that was the book I wanted to write. And they said, great, you have 6 months, go write this book. So I wrote this book called The Artist Side Hustle, coming out in November 18th. And I am just outlining how to go from 0 to 1, essentially, for the creative entrepreneur, the one with the heart for it, but don't know how. They might have talent. They might think it'd be great to see their art on products, maybe on store shelves or, hanging on someone's wall, but they just don't know how with the limited time they have. So I created like a launch system for part-time artists, essentially.
Love that.
I do too, because it's the story that's not often told or celebrated. And I think that we need to normalize the fact that like there's a lot of people right now in this economy, they're side hustling, right? I know side hustling sounds like a ick word for a lot of people, but that's why I called it that. I mean, we used to call it moonlighting or something, but the truth is there's nothing dishonorable about trying to take something you care about and you're passionate about and trying to share it authentically with people. And if they pay you, all the better. So let's give you a framework so you can do that confidently and not have to feel scared and go through those motions. You'll feel fear no matter what, but my goal is to make it easier for artists to get their work out there. And then hopefully they are able to grow into more, right?
There's two different ways in which people start businesses and philosophies, where people sort of do the side hustle thing and sort of ease into the idea of creating their business, or they kind of burn the boats philosophy where people just dive right in and say, I'm quitting the job and there's no parachute, just have to go do it. And I think that there's a lot of talk about that burn the boats online, and not enough about the responsible way in which you can build something on the side that really does become something really, really great, and giving people permission and to not just burn the boats and dive right in and still be committed to growing a creative business. Could you give us a little bit of a peek into the book about like where people might start, of like if they are wanting to start a creative business, and
Yeah.
what might be that first step for people?
Well, I think that you almost already addressed it, because there is all this messaging about burning the boats and diving all the way in. So honestly, the first 2 chapters of the book, it's about mindset. Because if you have already started your side hustle with the grain of thought in your mind that it's going to fail, because most things fail, you're going to fail. And the thing is, see advertisements online for this side hustle program where within, you'll make $100,000 if you do this side hustle program. And that just drives me crazy, because the truth is, a sustainable business doesn't happen like that. Even if you have a really great software and a great idea, some people maybe hit it out of the park, but the majority of thriving, profitable businesses that I know, whether they're art businesses or not, you have to believe in it more than anything else, even if it is just like a grain of an idea, because no one else is going to hold that belief for you. And no one else is going to be able to force you, whenever you could be scrolling on social media, to take that hour instead to go sit down and like format your art for a product. So the first 2 chapters really, and it's for anyone who wants to be a creative entrepreneur, it's not just artists in that matter. It's your mindset. It's finding ways to use the margins of life. And so we go through a lot of that, the debunking of the ideas that you don't have time, because, there's time. You can create time. Sometimes my friends are like, I think you actually weave time, Stacie. I don't know how you get so much done. But it's focusing on the right thing, one idea, one day at a time. And so we are meeting the right customers, we're making the right product for them, and then we're selling the product. We're moving it forward. It's meet, make, move. That's pretty much my whole philosophy of how to build your business in the margins of life. I'll say one other thing. Creatives struggle with this so much. It's because, like, if I'm just selling, I don't know, a generic product that has nothing to do with art, there's time involved with creating art. So for some people who have just, there's a lot of people selling products out there who aren't artists, right? Artists feel really attached to their creativity, right? Really important to them. So a part of my goal with the book too, I think it's chapter 3, where we really talk about like separating the idea of the preciousness of the personal art versus the intentionality of a product or an artist based brand, and why those don't have to be like in opposition to each other. Like, I have work that I create that's just for me, that isn't to monetize. And then once you learn who you can create for with your style and your skills, there's a lot of freedom just to knowing that like this is a path to success. And we all want a path to success. So like what's the harm in that?
Yeah, there's so many people I think that get precious about like, no, I have to create this art that then maybe people don't necessarily want to buy because it's mainly for you. But then like if you can create something that people love, like I've talked to various artists, they create one thing that winds up supporting them as an artist
Yeah.
for their whole career, and people consistently buy that thing because they love it, and it becomes the vehicle that allows you to do the authentic art at a higher level, right? And I love that you're giving them that vehicle and that perspective.
Well, like, I'll just say there's this one piece of art that I created. I've made a lot of art, but there's this black sheep that I made. He's on my wall over there. I might grab him because it helps with the story. My second baby's born, and I'm home, and I'm trying to be a full-time artist, right? And I draw this little black sheep. Let's get him in focus here. See, he's kind of grumpy. And I drew it, and one of my retailers really liked it and said, Stacie, why don't you just like make different colors of this guy with different facial expressions? So first I went from one sheep I could sell for $20, but then I made a gray one that was like content and happy, and then a brown one who was sleepy. I had a trio then from the same design that I leveraged that I could sell for $60. But then I'm like, what else can I do with this sucker? So then I made embroidery kits and I taught people how to embroider my sheep, right? And then I put it on fabric that I licensed. So, like, this isn't that, but this is a chicken. So then I put it on fabric. So then I licensed it with fabric design and then licensed it with a baby decor company who put it on baby bedding. And then I put it on tea towels. And pretty much I've made over $250,000 from one design in the past like 10 years. And the key is, like, if I had tried to do all that at once at first, it wouldn't have worked, right? There's there's clues to what is going to be successful. And so you don't start with every design going like hog wild and leveraging it everywhere. But you start with what you have, you use what you have, you learn the context clues from the ideal customer that you're building, and then you can just keep little by little going and going. So this was great during COVID, sold a lot of him. Now I'm not. So now I have them on tea towels, right? That's what you do.
That mindset of clues is really cool. Because I was thinking before when you were talking, like, it would be so easy. Like, you, right when we were at the beginning of this interview, you talked about getting that first licensing check for like 20 cents. And I could really easily see someone seeing that and saying, there's no money in licensing. Like, I just did this thing. I talked to these people and all this, and like, I made 20 cents. Like, this is worthless. It's not going to do anything. But you had the exact opposite reaction of just like, holy cow, like, I made money from this. That means I can make more money from this. So I love that. I love that idea of clues. Like, how would you, I don't know, how do you speak to your people about finding those clues and flipping that? I guess it's flipping the expectation a little bit, right? It's not that expectation that something's going to, like, oh my gosh, you're going to blow up overnight, which I feel like everyone knows, of course, they're not going to blow up overnight, but there's almost that little bit of a feeling. I'd imagine a feeling like, oh my gosh, I just need to get discovered, and then it's going to come floating in, instead of like route finding that route with those clues.
So since you mentioned it, I described leverage your art as trying to be a compass for people. So what I find is there's some people who at the first roadblock, they can't seem to think of any other step to take because they're so reliant on someone giving them the next step. So when I tell someone you need to create a portfolio of your best art and you need to pitch it, and they say, well, I pitched it and didn't get a response. And then I say, what did you do next? And they said, nothing. I said, well, what could you have done next? So if that didn't work, where else can you go while you're waiting for a response? Did you follow up with them? No. Okay, so follow up with them. What else can you do with that art while you're waiting? I could, maybe I have dogs that I draw. I could advertise that I can do custom pet portraits to make some quick cash. I'm like, bingo. All right, let's go make a listing. Within an hour, you can have a listing where you are trying to sell custom dog portraits. Well, I don't have an audience yet. Do you know someone with a dog? Yes. Well, why don't you go to them and say, like, can I draw your dog and then feature it online to build up like my portfolio? And can you give me a testimonial? Oh, but that's a lot of steps. Well, it beats nothing. And in the process, we are building credibility. We're creating new income streams. And I really think that, like, if there is some creative energy in this world that rewards movement, I think this is what you need to do. I think you keep moving forward. And it's not about doing everything. What's the next right step for you? And when I can teach people to think like that, geez, the problems that get solved and the opportunities that appear, people now in my programs are so bold. They'll be like, I was at my children's pediatrician, and they mentioned they were about to do new murals on their wall, new ones, but they didn't have an artist yet. And so I just said, can I show you my portfolio? And I already had it, Stacie, because you told me to create it. And they hired me. And now I'm painting murals in the whole pediatrician's office. And it's like, yeah. So I want my students to be ready when the opportunity arises. That's pretty much it.
One thing I just wanted to ask about is we do talk about various sales triggers within launches specifically that really help people create sales of their product. And one of them I think that really resonates for a lot of artists specifically is the idea of scarcity, because when you have one, say, original, it's very scarce and that adds a lot of value. Can you talk about the opportunity in using scarcity during, say, a launch to be able to drive more sales of art, and where there's a real opportunity for use of that?
Yes, absolutely. So another product that I sell, where I've done this. So I sell tea towels. I'm going to talk about tea towels again because it's like my bread and butter now. We do this thing where we create a tea towel calendar. And in 2019, I started creating these, like, your grandma probably had a flour sack cotton tea towel that had a calendar on it with some art. So we started selling those in 2019, and people started becoming collectors. Like, I found that the next year people started coming back and coming back. So in order to make sure that we moved the inventory, we are only producing X amount of these, right? So there is, like, we launch this, and the first 100 people who purchase it get this free something with their order. But we're going to print more towels if we can. We're not going to limit, if it's a good seller, I'm going to go get my printer and be like, print more of these towels. But how do we make sure that we, like, launch it well? There's a scarcity of, like, the gift that comes with it. Or with the embroidery kits, when I was hand making those during COVID, I only had supplies for 20, right? So it's like, I have 20 of these that I have with my own hands assembled for you. Do you want to embroider a sheep? Then you got to do it. You got to get it now. And, I'll hop on a Zoom call with all of you and we'll embroider together. Like, there are little relational connections that you can do. So scarcity works really, really well. Limited editions or things that become like series. Like I said, like we've done collectible ornaments that people collect an ornament from us every year, collectible tea towels. So that's a little bit less scarcity as much as a reason to come back, right? They trust you and they like your product and they think of you. And when my customers forget, oh my gosh, I forgot to order my Gingerbread 2024 calendar, we always keep a couple extra for those friends. And we're like, we got you. We'll ship you one right now. So other triggers, I just think that, reciprocity can be a good one. That's where the relationship building matters. It's like I said, I can get on a call with you and we can embroider this together. Like that's something of my time that I'm giving. And so they're going to purchase it. And I can't do that with everybody. But sometimes when you're testing something new or you have a small enough audience, it matters. And the newest thing I'm testing right now, my team has a spreadsheet. We're testing, like what it means if you are trying to build an audience and you only have a few followers on Instagram. So many artists are afraid to DM that person who followed them because they don't want to be weird, right? And it's not even ManyChat that I'm talking about. I've kind of created a script of an idea that we're rolling through on the Gingerbread product side of what it means to reach out to X% of new followers a day and begin a real human dialogue with them. Also filtering them through, are they ideal customers or not, or what other things can we learn from them? And then offering them an expiring coupon code that's good for X amount of time, 1-to-1. And then we track and see if they used it. If they used it, they get put into our email system where a quiz will be triggered for them to fill out, like, let's learn more about you with a real killer discount that you can't say no to. It's got to be over 30%, right? So you'll come back and buy from you again. But if this works, like I surmise, like, I've done a bunch of research on this. I think we're not only going to be able to teach artists without a budget for advertising how to connect and build the relationship directly with what they have, whether it's 20 people or 200 people, but also vet them and learn from their customers in a systemized way. So, like, I'm geeking out about this right now. So we'll see what happens.
Super cool. Chris, you think it's taco time?
Taco break time. Let's do it. Let's do it. So this is our 2-minute taco break. Sometimes it lasts a little longer than that, but these are we ask everyone the same set of taco questions, and then we go into some personalized, spicier questions after that. And so the first taco question for you, Stacie, is hard shell or soft shell?
I love a crunchy shell. I love it.
All right. That's great. All right. Are you hot, medium, or mild tacos?
Oh, I'm so boring. I'm very mild. I cry very easily, and the hot sauce makes me cry, so I can't do it.
And are you putting guacamole on your taco or no guacamole?
I'm allergic to avocados.
What?
No guacamole.
We finally found somebody else.
Who else is allergic? Are you?
I'm allergic. Yes.
That's crazy.
It is. It's not. It's uncommon.
It's very uncommon, right?
Yeah.
Like, is your brother also allergic to them?
No, I'm the only one.
Yeah. Yep. It's the craziest thing. We all have to figure out that moment when we realize we're allergic to avocados. It's never great. But I know now never to eat another one again.
Yeah, it was very dramatic for me.
Very much so.
Wow, we have done this so many times. Every guest we ask that question, and we have finally found another person who doesn't put guacamole
You
on
never
their
need to interview
taco. It is
anyone else again. I'm your
Right, we
last.
can just wrap up the podcast
Yeah.
here. Like, search is over. We mission accomplished.
Wow.
Love it.
Here's another question for you, taco related. If you could eat tacos with any artist from alive or dead, who would you choose?
John Singer Sargent, who, did all the amazing portraiture during the Gilded Age, but he was also amazing before that. But that's where he made his money as a commissioned artist for all these wealthy, schmancy folks. But I love his work so much. It's what I used to draw when I was little. Like, I try to copy his work, and I would love to sit down with him and figure out like how he was smart. He was a smart guy. Like, he found an audience of people who were really vain and needed beautiful portraits of themselves to make them look even prettier than they would live in real life. And he milked it, man. He was a smart cookie, and he made money before he was dead. That's important as an artist back in the day. So it'd be him, John Singer Sargent.
The original artist, entrepreneur, inspiration. I love it. I love it. If you were to design a tea towel that was taco related, have you got some ideas? Or maybe you've already done this. Have you got some ideas around how you would approach that?
Well, it's interesting. That's more of an evergreen subject matter that we are expanding into at Gingerbread. We went to a trade show in January. Someone asked us for chili peppers. No one asked us for tacos, but if I had to do a taco towel, we can go one of two ways. We can do a recipe taco towel where we're actually teaching someone how to make like tacos a specific way. We have a Christmas cookie recipe towel this year with my mom's Christmas cookies on it. So the ingredients are there and how to make it. And then all the ingredients are like drawn on it. So we could go kind of something fun like that because then it's really useful, fun gift. Or we can just throw a bunch of like, I don't know, gorditas on it. I don't know what are they selling at Taco Bell right now. Burritos, tacos. I think the component one would be more fun.
I think just like all the ingredients, like if
Yeah,
All
that'd
the
be cool.
ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no guacamole on yours though.
No, it'd be like
There's always like the over the top like love expression for tacos on the tea towel. I feel like I've got one that's like it's like a burrito one someone got me, and it's all about
I would love to see what that looks like.
I will send you a picture. It's
Send me a
it's pretty great. Yeah, it's pretty great.
More fellas need to appreciate tea towels because it's a whole untapped market. This year we released our first towel marketed towards men specifically. It was a trout towel for Father's Day, and it did swim. It did real good. So all these Charlottes were buying trout towels for their brothers and husbands and fathers. Worked out.
Well, I will say I do have I don't know what constitutes a large collection of towels. It's probably a very small one by standards, but I enjoy them, and every one of them has been a gift. But it's a gift that's fun, and it's like, yeah, cool. You decorate your house a little bit with something that you're going to have anyways. You're going to have a towel in your kitchen anyway, so it's like it's useful to have. But then it's like also fun. So yeah,
Man, I need to survey you after this so I can sell to more men like you. So we'll have.
I think the angle with men would be like, this is a gift. Like you're always looking for gifts. It's always the last minute. You're
That's true, too.
you don't want to feel like a complete loser because you forgot about your wife's or your sister's or your mom's birthday, and just buy a bunch of these and have them on hand.
That's an idea for an advertising campaign we're going to do. My brother-in-law, he's good at talking. So we're going to record him, and he's going to be like, hey, fellas, come over here. There's something that you don't know. That's your secret weapon, presenting the tea towel. And he's going to talk it up for us. So we're going to try that with one of our ads this year for holidays, see how it goes.
Bonus points with that too is that if you decide that you're going to get fun tea towel, then the next year it's another fun tea towel. Like you get like years out of that gift. Just go back, just bookmark the site, go back to Gingerbread each year, and it's like great. Awesome. Another new selection.
Instead of having a monthly club for Charlotte, you could have the yearly club for Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Christmas club, but they go on sale in like October. So it's like you buy the gift, like so you're all set before the holiday happens.
At the risk of making you dizzy, let me just show you. If you really want to go all out, you can get all of my towels and hang them all up on a wall like that. And, that's one way if you just stick with me for the next like 40 years and buy a towel with me.
Yeah, it's like
that's what it could be like.
yeah, coming back to Mexican food, that's like the whole enchilada offer.
Oh,
A whole enchilada. I love it.
Bravo. I like it. I like it.
I'm an incredible taco artist. I make art with, like I paint or I do images of tacos. How should I start making money from my taco art?
The first thing I'm going to go recommend is you find your local taqueria. Like in Springdale, we have lots of taquerias. They're authentic and beautiful. And you go to them and you say, is there any way we could do a brand collaboration? I would love, love, love to draw specifically your carnitas taco, and we could put it on shirts that we can sell, and we could split the profits 50-50. All you would have to do whenever you are open, is just like have the shirt out. I can set up everything else. That would be idea number one that I just came up with. The other idea would be, gosh, you would go to like a culinary store. So we have them here where people are just doing kitchen stuff, and they'll do these cooking nights, right? Where like this woman will teach you how to use like all the equipment in her store. So you buy it from her. So you find out whenever she's doing like a Mexican themed one, and you say, I've created these taco towels. I'm wondering if we could bring them into your store for that night, and I could pop up with you while you are doing, your taco teaching. Then I can do my taco pop up, and I can even do stickers because that's low cost. And people probably don't want a taco greeting card, but maybe a keychain. You can do those manufactured like 12 to 25 at a time. That's how I would do it.
Well, that's the end of the 2-minute taco break. Thank you for that. That was an awesome one. Lots of great ideas coming through that. We like to finish off our episodes. This is called Dare to Launch because we want to dare people to launch. And whether it's their first product, their next product, we want this to be an inspiration for them to go out and do it. And I'm curious, why should people dare to launch?
They need to dare to launch because a lot of people feel powerless in their lives. A lot of people feel like they wake up and they don't have a lot of agency. And I think if you dare to launch, no matter what the product is, whether it's a course, a pillowcase, anything you want to create and try to sell, it's the moment where you can have agency back in your life for just a little bit and feel like maybe you can change things if you just keep going and keep learning. And I think that a lot of people don't have that belief or that opportunity. So if you have the opportunity to launch and you're willing to learn from it, no matter the outcome, I'm going to tell you that your life can change little by little. And all of a sudden you're going to find that like the things that you wanted to have happen, there's a path, and it's not reliant on everyone else and all these external circumstances. There's so little we can control in life, but learning to launch and put it in your own hands. I mean, there's nothing more like empowering than that. And that's how I have felt over the past 16 years of going from my first handmade pillow now to teaching. We just closed a launch, and we did a $1.5 million launch of artists who are learning right now how to build their creative businesses. So you never know the limits because you just keep going, right?
Well, Stacie, thank you so much for coming on our show here and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. If people would like to check out some of your art and Tea Towel Club and everything like that, where can they go?
You can go to first, the easier to spell, staciebloomfield.com with an IE. And then that's where all of my like education work is at, consulting that I do, helping other artists build their income streams. And then if you want to buy products from me, gingiber.com, Gingiber, the little name that I took out of a Latin dictionary in college and threw on my Etsy store, and now I have it trademarked. Man, I can't get rid of that name. But that's where you find me, gingiber.com.
And how about the book?
The book is called The Artist Side Hustle. It's available for pre-order anywhere and everywhere you want. Comes out on November 18th. I just recorded the audiobook version, so you can also pre-order the audiobook if that's your preferred method. And I would sure love your support when that book comes out. I'd love for you to have to listen to me for about 10 hours to help you grow your business. That's all.
Well, Launch family, thanks again for listening, and we hope this conversation inspires you to dare to launch.